The one thing you must stop doing, the very thing that pushes success away from you, is living in the consciousness of lack. Now let me tell you what I mean by this, for it is of paramount importance. Every moment of your day, you are either living in the consciousness of lack or the consciousness of abundance. There is no middle ground, no neutral state of being. When you declare, I want success, you are actually affirming its absence. When you say, I need more money, you are dwelling in the consciousness of not having enough. When you proclaim, I wish I was successful, you are living in a state of wanting rather than having. Do you see the subtle yet crucial difference? Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. The outside world is nothing more than the objectification of your inner assumptions. Whatever you are experiencing now, be it lack or abundance, is the direct result of your accepted beliefs about yourself and the world. Tonight, I will show you how to move from the consciousness of lack to the consciousness of fulfillment, from the state of wanting to the state of having, from the condition of seeking to the condition of being. Consider this. When you say, I want success, you are placing success outside of yourself, making it something to be attained rather than something to be expressed. This is the fundamental error that keeps pushing success away from you. Success is not something to be pursued. It is a consciousness to be assumed. Let me tell you a story from my own experience. Many years ago, I knew a man who constantly spoke about wanting to be successful. He would say, when I become successful, I will. And then list all the things he would do. Year after year, success eluded him. Why? Because he was living in the consciousness of wanting success rather than being successful. Then one day he heard what I'm telling you now. He realized that as long as he lived in the consciousness of wanting success, he would continue to experience the want of success. That very night, he made a fundamental shift in his consciousness. Instead of saying, I want success, he began to live from the consciousness of being successful. He would fall asleep each night feeling the naturalness of being successful. He would walk through his day experiencing the feeling of being successful. He made this his new normal state of consciousness. Now pay careful attention to what I'm about to tell you, for this is the crux of the matter. Success is not a future event. It is a present state of consciousness. The feeling of being successful now is the secret of experiencing success in what you call the future. When you live in the consciousness of lack, saying things like, I need more money, I want better relationships, I wish I had more opportunities, you are actually reinforcing the very state that keeps these things from you. You are dwelling in the consciousness of absence, and the law of consciousness dictates that what you assume, you must express. Let me show you how to make this fundamental shift in consciousness. First, you must understand that your imagination is not a tool for daydreaming about what you want. It is the very substance of reality itself. When I speak of imagination, I am speaking of your consciousness, your I amness. The Bible tells us, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is not mere poetry, it is a practical instruction in the art of consciousness transformation. When you continue to live in the consciousness of lack, you are using your imagination, your creative power, to perpetuate the very condition you wish to change. Consider this profound truth. Everything in your world is pushing against you with the force of your own assumption. If you assume lack, the whole world will prove you right. If you assume abundance, the same world will reorganize itself to prove that assumption. Now, let me give you a practical technique to stop living in the consciousness of lack. Tonight, when you go to bed, instead of reviewing your day of wanting and seeking success, you will enter into a new state of consciousness. You will feel as though you are already successful. But remember, this is not mere positive thinking or affirmation. This is a complete assumption of the state of consciousness of being successful. Feel its naturalness. Feel how it would feel to be the person you desire to be. Feel the satisfaction, the contentment, the gratitude that would be yours if you were already expressing success. Many of you are thinking, but Neville, how can I feel successful when my current reality shows me the opposite? This is where most people remain trapped in the consciousness of lack. They allow their current circumstances to dictate their inner state. Let me tell you something remarkable. Your present circumstances are nothing more than the harvest of your previous assumptions. They have no power to determine your future unless you give them that power by accepting them as final. Think about this. Every great achievement in human history began with someone who dared to assume a state that their senses denied. Every invention, every discovery, every advancement started in the imagination of someone who refused to accept current circumstances as final. The one thing you must stop doing is allowing your present facts to determine your inner conversations. Your inner conversations are your actual state of consciousness. When you say, I can't afford it, it's too difficult, I'm not qualified enough, you are having inner conversations that perpetuate the state of lack. Instead, you must begin new inner conversations based on the assumption of already being what you desire to be. When you walk, you must walk with the feeling of being successful. When you talk, you must talk from the consciousness of being successful. When you work, you must work from the state of being successful. Let me share with you a profound secret. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. Whatever you are feeling as true about yourself right now is creating your future experiences. If you are feeling the frustration of wanting success, you are creating more experiences of wanting success. Now, let us delve deeper into the practical application of this principle. When I tell you to live in the consciousness of success rather than the consciousness of lack, I am not suggesting mere mental gymnastics. I am revealing to you the very foundation of creation itself. Consider this every night before you sleep. Your consciousness is in a state of high receptivity. This is the time when the seed of your assumption will take root most deeply. Instead of falling asleep feeling the frustration of what you don't have, fall asleep in the consciousness of already having what you desire. Let me give you a specific technique. As you lay in your bed, close your eyes and ask yourself this question. How would I feel if I were expressing the success I desire? Then let that feeling envelop you completely. Feel the satisfaction, the contentment, the absolute knowing that success is not something you're seeking, but something you're expressing right now. Remember, the subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you feel to be true. It doesn't argue, it doesn't question, it simply accepts and then proceeds to express that acceptance in your outer world. This is why feeling is the secret. Many of you have been told that you must work hard, struggle, and sacrifice to achieve success. But I tell you, these are the very assumptions that keep you bound to the consciousness of lack. Success is not achieved through effort. It is expressed through assumption. Think about this. When you assume the feeling of success, you are actually moving into a different state of consciousness. In this new state, opportunities that were always there but invisible to your previous state of consciousness suddenly become visible and available to you. Let me share with you a principle that few understand. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out. Everything you perceive is an expression of your own consciousness. Therefore, when you live in the consciousness of lack, the whole world conspires to show you lack. When you live in the consciousness of success, the same world reorganizes itself to show you success. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, what about action? Don't we need to do something? Yes, but your actions must spring from the consciousness of already being successful, not from the consciousness of trying to become successful. Do you see the difference? When you act from the consciousness of lack, your actions are tinged with anxiety, doubt, and the energy of seeking. But when you act from the consciousness of already being successful, your actions flow naturally, effortlessly, inspired by the very state you have assumed. Consider this: success is not a destination. It is a state of consciousness. Just as you can move from one room to another in your physical home, you can move from one state of consciousness to another in your spiritual home. The move is accomplished not by physical effort, but by assumption. Let me tell you something profound. The state of consciousness of already being successful knows exactly what to do. It knows precisely what actions to take. It attracts the right circumstances, the right people, the right opportunities. But you must first occupy that state. Let us now address what many find most challenging: maintaining this new state of consciousness when your external world has not yet caught up with your inner assumption. This is where most people falter, where they allow the evidence of their senses to pull them back into the consciousness of lack. Remember this eternal truth: the outer world must conform to your inner assumptions, but it does so in its own time and in what often appears to be a natural way. While you're waiting for the outer manifestation, you must maintain the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. Let me share with you what I mean by persistence in assumption. When you wake each morning, your first thoughts often determine the tone of your entire day. Instead of waking to thoughts of what you lack or what you need to achieve, wake to the consciousness of already being successful. Feel it as naturally as you feel the pillow beneath your head. Many of you ask, but Neville, what about when things go wrong? What about when circumstances seem to contradict my assumption? Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, for this is crucial. Circumstances have no power to alter your state of consciousness unless you give them that power. When circumstances seem to deny your assumption, that is the time to intensify your feeling of already being what you desire to be. Remember, the outer world is only reflecting your past assumptions. Your present assumption, if persisted in, will become your future fact. Consider this. Every moment of your day, you are either strengthening your new state of consciousness or falling back into the old state of lack. Your inner conversations, your reactions to events, your feelings about yourself, these are either confirming your new state or contradicting it. Let me give you a specific example. When you receive a bill in the mail, do you immediately fall into the consciousness of lack, thinking, how will I pay this? Or do you maintain the consciousness of abundance, knowing that as a successful person, all your needs are met with ease? Your reaction in such moments reveals your true state of consciousness. This is why I tell you, the one thing you must stop doing is allowing external circumstances to determine your internal state. Your internal state must be maintained regardless of external evidence. This is the art of living from the end. Think about this. Success is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens from you. It is the outer expression of an inner conviction. When you truly live in the consciousness of being successful, success becomes as natural as breathing. Many of you have been taught to set goals, to make plans, to take action. But I tell you, before all of these, you must first establish the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. For your goals, plans, and actions will then spring from this new state of consciousness, carrying with them the power of fulfillment. Let me share with you a profound secret about manifestation. The world is not responding to your wants, your needs, or your wishes. It is responding to your state of consciousness. When you live in the consciousness of lack, saying, I want success, you are actually manifesting more wanting, not more success. Now let us discuss what I consider to be the most vital aspect of this teaching, the role of faith in maintaining your new state of consciousness. But when I speak of faith, I do not mean blind belief or hoping for the best. I speak of faith as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen in the external world. Consider this profound truth. Faith is nothing more than loyalty to your unseen assumption. When you assume the consciousness of being successful and persist in that assumption despite all external evidence to the contrary, you are exercising true faith. Let me tell you something that few understand about the nature of faith. Faith is not believing that something will happen in the future. Faith is knowing that what you desire is already yours in consciousness, and therefore must manifest in your experience. This is why I tell you that imagination creates reality. Many of you struggle with maintaining your assumption because you're constantly looking for evidence in the external world. But I tell you, the evidence appears after the assumption, never before. Your task is to remain faithful to your assumption until it hardens into fact. Think about this. Every time you say, I'll believe it when I see it, you are living in direct opposition to the law of consciousness. The correct attitude is, I'll see it because I believe it. This is the true meaning of faith. When you wake in the morning and your external world shows no sign of your assumed success, that is the moment to intensify your faith. Instead of allowing the external to shake your conviction, let every contradiction strengthen your resolve to maintain your new state of consciousness. Let me share with you a practical technique for maintaining your faith. Throughout your day, whenever you notice yourself slipping back into the consciousness of lack, stop and ask yourself this question: How would I be thinking and feeling right now if I were already expressing the success I desire? This simple question will bring you back to your desired state of consciousness. But remember, this is not about pretending or deceiving yourself. It is about assuming the natural feeling of already being what you desire to be. Consider how a truly successful person thinks and feels. They don't wake up wondering if success will come to them. They don't go through their day seeking success. They live, move, and have their being in the consciousness of success. This must become your new normal. Many of you have created habits of thought and feeling that perpetuate the consciousness of lack. Every time you say, I can't afford it, it's too difficult, I'm not ready, you are strengthening these habits. These must be replaced with new habits that spring from your assumed state of success. Let me tell you something profound about habits of consciousness. They can be changed in an instant by assumption. The moment you assume a new state of consciousness, you have changed. The persistence of that change depends entirely on your loyalty to the new state. Let us now explore what happens in the interval between your assumption and its manifestation in the physical world. This interval is where most people falter, where they allow doubt to creep in and return to the old state of consciousness. Remember this, the interval is not a period of waiting, it is a period of gestation. Just as a seed planted in the ground requires time to grow into a visible plant, your assumption requires time to grow into a visible manifestation. But the seed does not doubt. It simply grows according to law. Many of you ask, how long must I maintain this new consciousness before I see results? This is the voice of doubt, the voice that would pull you back into the consciousness of lack. Time is not a factor in the operation of consciousness. The only factor is the intensity and persistence of your assumption. Consider this: every moment you spend wondering when your desire will manifest is a moment spent in the consciousness of not having it. Every moment you spend checking to see if it's working is a moment of doubt. These moments of doubt are like continually digging up a seed to see if it's growing. Let me share with you the secret of perfect faith. Live as though your assumption is already fact. When you truly assume the consciousness of being successful, you no longer worry about when or how it will manifest. You simply live from that state, knowing that what you have assumed in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Think about this: the outer world is nothing more than a delayed reflection of your inner assumptions. What you are experiencing now is the result of past assumptions. What you will experience tomorrow is being determined by your consciousness today. Many of you struggle with what appears to be failure or setback. But I tell you, there is no such thing as failure when you understand the law of consciousness. What appears as failure is simply the passing away of an old state of consciousness. It is making way for the new state you have assumed. Let me tell you something profound about the nature of success. It is not a series of achievements or acquisitions. It is a state of consciousness that, once truly assumed, expresses itself in countless ways in your external world. When you live in the consciousness of success, success becomes your natural experience. Consider how different your life would be if you never again lived in the consciousness of lack. If you never again said, I can't, I need, I want. If you lived completely and consistently in the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. This is the challenge I leave with you tonight. Stop doing the one thing that pushes success away. Stop living in the consciousness of lack. Begin now to live in the consciousness of fulfillment. Let every thought, every feeling, every inner conversation spring from the assumption that you are already what you desire to be. Remember this eternal truth: the world is yourself pushed out. Change your concept of self, and you change your world. There is no other way. All things exist in consciousness, and it is from consciousness that all things appear. Your task is simple, though it may not be easy. Assume the consciousness of being successful now. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances change, but now. For now is the only time there is. And now is when your assumptions are creating your future. I leave you with this final thought. Success is not something you pursue. It is something you express from a state of consciousness. The consciousness of lack perpetuates lack. The consciousness of success perpetuates success. Choose this day which consciousness you will live from. For in the end, there is only one cause behind all effects, one source of all manifestation, consciousness. And you are that consciousness individualized as you. The power is within you. The choice is yours. The time is now. Test this law. Prove it to yourself. For in the testing lies your freedom. And in the proving lies your transformation. Go now and live in the assumption that you are already that which you desire to be. And watch as your world transforms to reflect your new state of consciousness. The one thing you must stop doing is waiting to be successful. For success is not a future state to be achieved, it is a present state to be assumed. Assume it now, live from it now, be it now. For what you assume, you become. And now, knowing this truth, knowing that the power is within you, knowing that your consciousness creates your reality, go forth and be what you desire to be. For in this knowing lies your freedom. And in this freedom lies your power. Test it, prove it, live it. For this is the law, and this is the way. Good night. Have you ever noticed that when you truly understand something, when it clicks deep within your consciousness, your entire world shifts? Tonight, I want to share with you a profound truth that will transform how you experience reality itself. And right now, as you listen to these words, the universe is orchestrating events beyond your imagination. Forces are aligning, circumstances are shifting, and a wave of incredible manifestations is heading your way. But here's the crucial part. Most people miss these blessings because they're looking in the wrong direction and are failing to imagine the magnetism. You see, the universe doesn't repay you based on what you do. It repays you based on who you are being in your consciousness. This is the secret that changes everything. When you grasp this truth, you'll understand why some people seem to effortlessly attract their desires, while others struggle endlessly. Yeah, think about this. Every moment of your life, you're broadcasting a signal to the universe through your consciousness. This signal isn't your words, your actions, or even your thoughts. It's your state of being. It's the feeling you carry within you. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manipulate external circumstances, never realizing that the external is merely a reflection of their internal state. They chase success, love, wealth, always reaching, always striving, never understanding that these things aren't to be pursued, but to be assumed. Let me share something profound with you. The universe isn't separate from you. It is you extended. Every person, every circumstance, every event in your life is yourself pushed out. When you truly understand this, you'll realize why the universe must repay you, because it's simply responding to what you're being. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to position yourself to receive these universal repayments. But first, you must understand that this isn't about doing more. It's about being more. It's about expanding your consciousness to embrace the reality you desire. The secret to feeling truly alive lies not in what you accumulate or achieve, but in your capacity to feel the reality of your desires. Now, most people live in a state of emotional numbness, going through the motions of life without ever experiencing its full vibrancy. Consider this. When was the last time you felt absolutely, unshakably alive? When every state in your body vibrated with the energy of pure being. That state isn't something to be found. It's something to be claimed through your consciousness. Mirror your kingdom, mirror your power, mirror your glory, mirror your glory, mirror your life. This is a quote from the style in the book. You see, at this very moment, you're experiencing only a tiny fraction of what life has to offer. You've constructed walls in your consciousness, limitations that seem real, but exist only because you've accepted them as truth. These walls weren't built by the universe. They were built by your assumptions. You saw this wall that you drew as a way of protecting and closing yourself in. Let me share a principle that will revolutionize your understanding. Every sensation you've ever experienced, every emotion you've ever felt, exists within your consciousness. You don't need external circumstances to feel alive. You need only to awaken to the aliveness that already exists within you. Find that space, that inner space, that inner presence, that inner awareness, that inner understanding. Most people wait for something external to make them feel alive. They wait for the perfect relationship, the ideal job, the dream house. But I tell you this, waiting is the very thing that keeps you from experiencing the fullness of life. The universe responds not to your wanting, but to your being. When you feel truly alive, when you embody the state of vibrant, pulsing life force, the universe must, by law, reflect that state back to you in countless unexpected ways. Everyone turns around. You were here once. Now you're begging for another chance to come back. Think about this. Every moment of intense aliveness you've ever experienced was created not by external circumstances, but by your consciousness. Those moments when you felt invincible, when you felt connected to everything, those weren't given to you by the world. They were created by your assumption of that state. The key to constant renewal, to feeling perpetually alive, lies in understanding that consciousness is the only reality. Whatever you feel to be true, whatever state you occupy in consciousness, must be reflected in your external world. What most people don't realize is that feeling alive isn't something that happens to you. Your consciousness is the gateway through which all experiences flow. When you change your consciousness, you change the entire spectrum of your experiences. Consider the vastness of the universe for a moment. Billions of galaxies, infinite possibilities, all existing simultaneously. Yet you experience only what you accept as possible in your consciousness. Your current experience of life is merely one tiny channel on an infinite broadcast spectrum. The universe is constantly trying to repay you with experiences that match your highest vision. But here's the crucial point. You must tune your consciousness to receive these experiences. Just as a radio can only receive the frequencies it's tuned to, your consciousness can only experience what it's aligned with. Most people live their entire lives never adjusting their frequency. They stay tuned to the same channel of limited experiences, never realizing they have access to the entire spectrum of existence. They feel stuck, stagnant, barely alive, when infinite vitality is available to them. Let me share something profound about the nature of feeling alive. When you truly feel alive, you're not just experiencing life, you're creating it. Every moment of genuine aliveness is a moment of pure creation. In those moments, you're not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are that force individualized. But here's where most people miss the mark. They try to feel alive through external stimulation. They chase experiences, relationships, achievements, never realizing that these things can't make them feel alive. They can only reflect the aliveness that already exists within their consciousness. The universe is waiting to repay you with experiences that will take your breath away, but it can only give you what you're prepared to receive in consciousness. If you're operating from a state of emotional deadness, of limited expectations, that's exactly what will be reflected back to you. Think about the times when you felt most alive. In those moments, you weren't trying to feel alive, you simply were alive. You weren't reaching for something outside yourself. You were fully present in your own being. That's the state from which miracles flow. The secret that most people miss is that the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. If you're constantly living in a state of wanting to feel alive, you're actually affirming your current state of not feeling alive. This is why so many people remain stuck despite their best efforts. Let me share with you a profound truth about consciousness. Your consciousness is not confined to your physical body. It extends to everything you're aware of. When you feel truly alive, that aliveness permeates your entire world. Everything you touch, everyone you interact with, must reflect that state back to you. Most people don't realize that they are constantly creating their reality through their state of consciousness. Every moment, every interaction, every experience is shaped by the state you're occupying. If you're operating from a state of limited aliveness, your experiences will reflect that limitation. Consider this. The universe is not a random collection of events and circumstances. It's a perfect mirror, reflecting back to you your own consciousness. When you understand this, you'll realize why some people seem to live charmed lives while others struggle continuously. The key to receiving unexpected blessings from the universe lies in expanding your consciousness to embrace more life, not just theoretically, but actually feeling more alive in your day-to-day existence. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about positive being. Most people live in a state of emotional contraction. They've learned to suppress their natural vitality, to dim their light, to exist rather than truly live. But I tell you this, that contracted state is not natural. Your natural state is one of expanding aliveness. Think about a time when you felt absolutely unstoppable. In that moment, you weren't doing anything special. You were simply being in a state of expanded consciousness. That state is always available to you. It's not something to achieve. It's something to allow. The universe is constantly trying to give you more life, more vitality, more experiences that make you feel truly alive. But it can only give you what you're willing to receive in consciousness. Listen carefully now, because this is where most people go wrong. They think they need to work harder, do more, achieve more to feel alive. But I tell you, feeling alive is your natural state. You don't need to earn it. You only need to remove the barriers you've placed in your consciousness. Think of your consciousness as an infinite ocean of possibilities. Right now, you're experiencing only a tiny drop of that ocean. Not because the rest isn't available to you, but because you've limited yourself through your assumptions about what's possible. The universe is preparing to repay you in ways that will astonish you. But you must be ready to receive. This readiness isn't about external preparation. It's about expanding your consciousness to embrace more life, more possibilities, more of everything that makes you feel vibrantly alive. Most people live in a state of constant preparation, always getting ready for life, but never fully living it. They're waiting for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, the ideal conditions. But I tell you this, the perfect moment is now. The ideal condition is your current consciousness expanded to embrace more life. Consider how a flower blooms. It doesn't struggle or strain. It doesn't try to force its petals open. It simply allows its natural state of blossoming to unfold. Your consciousness works the same way. When you stop struggling and start allowing, when you cease trying to feel alive and simply allow yourself to be alive, everything changes. The universe operates through law, not luck. When you maintain a state of expanded consciousness, of genuine aliveness, that state must, by law, be reflected in your external world. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the operation of universal law. Most people don't realize that their current circumstances are simply their past assumptions made manifest. Whatever you're experiencing now is the result of the state you've been occupying in consciousness. Change the state and you change everything. But here's the crucial point. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to feel alive and expect the universe to respond. You must actually occupy the state of expanded consciousness, of genuine aliveness. The secret to receiving unexpected blessings lies in understanding that the universe doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your assumptions. When you assume a state of expanded consciousness, when you live from that state consistently, the universe must conform to match your assumption. Most people make the mistake of trying to change their circumstances while maintaining the same consciousness. They want different results, but continue operating from the same limited state. This is like planting apple seeds and expecting to grow oranges. Let me share something profound about the nature of consciousness. Your consciousness is creative. It's constantly creating your reality, whether you're aware of it or not. Every moment, you are either creating from a state of expanded awareness or from a state of limitation. Think about the last time something amazing happened unexpectedly. In that moment, weren't you in a state of openness, of expanded possibilities? That state wasn't created by the circumstance. The circumstance was created by the state. The universe is waiting to shower you with experiences that will make your heart sing. But you must be vibrating at the frequency of those experiences. You must be living from the state that matches what you want to receive. Most people live in a state of emotional constriction, constantly bracing themselves against life. They've learned to expect limitations, to anticipate problems, to prepare for the worst. But I tell you this, that contracted state is creating more of the very things they're trying to avoid. Consider how different your life would be if you lived constantly from a state of expanded consciousness. If you moved through each day feeling fully alive, fully present, fully open to receiving. That state isn't something to achieve. It's something to allow. The universe operates with mathematical precision. Whatever state you occupy in consciousness must be reflected in your external world. This isn't theory. This is law. Most crucial understanding you must grasp is that your current state of consciousness is creating your future experiences. Every moment you spend feeling limited, constrained, or barely alive is setting the stage for more of the same. But every moment you spend in expanded consciousness is creating future moments of unexpected blessings. Think about this deeply. The universe isn't withholding anything from you. It's constantly offering you everything, but you can only receive what your consciousness is prepared to accept. Right? If you're living in a state of emotional contraction, you're literally closing the door to countless blessings. Most people live as if life is happening to them, when in truth, life is happening through them. Your consciousness is the lens through which all your experiences are filtered. Change the lens, and you change everything you see and experience. Consider the difference between watching a sunset while feeling fully alive and watching the same sunset while feeling emotionally numb. The sunset hasn't changed, but your experience of it is completely different. This is how consciousness shapes reality. The universe is preparing to repay you with experiences that will transform your understanding of what's possible. But you must be ready. This readiness isn't about external preparation. It's about maintaining a state of expanded consciousness consistently. Most people can't sustain an expanded state because they're constantly reacting to external circumstances. They allow their state to be determined by what's happening around them, rather than allowing their state to determine what happens. Let me share something profound about the nature of reality. Everything you experience is a reflection of your consciousness. There is no such thing as an external event that isn't connected to your state of consciousness. Everything is yourself pushed out. When you understand this, you'll realize why some people seem to live charmed lives while others struggle constantly. It's not about luck or fate. It's about the state of consciousness they consistently occupy. The key to receiving unexpected blessings lies in maintaining an expanded state, regardless of external circumstances. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means understanding that your consciousness creates reality. Think about a time when everything in your life seemed to flow effortlessly. In that state, you weren't doing anything different externally. You were being different internally. You were operating from a state of expanded consciousness. Most people spend their lives trying to arrange circumstances to feel better, when they should be arranging their consciousness to create better circumstances. The sequence is crucial. First the state, then the manifestation. Your task is simple, though not always easy. You must maintain a state of expanded consciousness, regardless of what your senses show you. You must feel fully alive, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. You must live from the end, feeling what you want to experience before it manifests externally. The universe operates through immutable laws. Whatever state you consistently occupy in consciousness must be reflected in your external world. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the operation of law. As you leave here tonight, remember this. The universe is not separate from you. It is you extended. Every blessing you receive, every unexpected gift, every moment of synchronicity is simply your consciousness made manifest. Don't wait for external circumstances to make you feel alive. Choose to feel alive now. Don't wait for success to feel successful. Occupy that state now. Don't wait for abundance to feel abundant. Live from that state now. The universe will repay you not based on what you do, but based on who you are being in consciousness. Be the person who lives fully, who embraces life completely, who expects miracles as naturally as breathing. Your role is not to make things happen. Your role is to assume the state that allows things to happen. Live from that state consistently and watch as the universe rearranges itself to match your assumption. Remember, the power that you seek is not outside you. It is your very consciousness. Use it wisely. Use it consistently. Use it with the understanding that every moment of expanded consciousness is creating future moments of unexpected blessing. Go forth now, not to achieve, but to be. Not to get, but to embody. Not to become, but to assume. For in this lies the secret of receiving everything you've ever desired and more than you could ever imagine. The universe is waiting to repay you in ways beyond your current comprehension. But you must be ready. You must be willing. You must be living in the state of consciousness that matches what you want to receive. That is your task. That is your opportunity. That is your destiny. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Choose now. Choose to live from the state of consciousness that matches your highest vision. For in that choice lies everything you've ever wanted, and more than you've ever dreamed possible. My dear wonderful friends, tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation: how to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days. Not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute. And it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation. For you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Neville, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture. And when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced. For feeling is the secret, and your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win, or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now, for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it, because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command if you wish to see your world transform. Consider this: every outer conversation you have is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. Before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle, engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity. But remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with a feeling of knowing that they are already true. Throughout your day, your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction. When challenges arise, and they will arise, your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of health. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days, he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation, not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously. But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies, in maintaining your new conversation regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No, his inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws, and his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation. During these 3 days, you must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality, not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days, and they will arise. When a doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, immediately revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying inwardly, this isn't working, immediately revise it to, everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now. This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude. Not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth consciousness. If you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health consciousness. If you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear, you must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation, and like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation, for you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me. If you desire a promotion, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more. But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. For feeling is the secret. And your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be specific. Vague inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be continuous, not in the sense of constant chatter, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, it must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room, let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be alive with feeling, rich with the emotion of your desired state, for it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation. Not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, what if my desired state seems impossible? Let me remind you, nothing is impossible to your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled, regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind. Let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. You must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak, think as that person would think, feel as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness. When you catch yourself speaking from your old state, immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is, not what was or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct. If it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true, even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity. For your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship with yourself. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is. Your consciousness in action, creating your world. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are, the operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your universe. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days, as though your life depends upon it, because it does. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality. Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled, and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world. Every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about?